let us begin with talking more about FAANG. Like the hype for these companies is crazy and nowhere demeaning. So let us consider someone who is, who dreams to work in one of these and is in college right now. So if you could suggest some things to them, and obviously before, if you want to, talk about yourself as well.
Yeah, so let me start with disclaimer that I do not represent Google or any of my previous employers. Whatever I'm going to share is my personal thoughts. Okay, so I'm a 2013 pass out. So right now employed at Google. Before that, I was with Microsoft for 4.5 years. Before that, I was with Amazon for 2 years. It was not my campus placement, so I got a campus placement at Tejas Network, but I was there for a very short stint of 4 months. And going back to your question that the hype around FAANG and what should people do in FAANG. So I think FAANG hires general software developers that they are not looking for something special because they don't know where you're going to lie, like what project which your team is going to do. So they want people who can pick up everything, who are fast learners. So that is why you must have seen that everyone focus on fundamentals. Fundamentals covers your data structures, algorithms, and many people don't prepare for operating system, databases, networks, but I feel that they are pretty important. That consider it might not be that important for your coding interviews, but when you're working there, you have to talk in that lingo itself. That what is
Mhm.
happening with your threads, where's the problem. So those kind of things, if you are aware of, it helps also working. So you have to think just not about cracking into, right? It's about surviving there also. So what strategy which I will tell people is think backwards, that what actually a interviewer is asking you. What do they expect from you? So sometimes people find it daunting, but these are like few key things what they're expecting from you, that you write clean code which is readable. You test your code when you're seeing what can you test your code whatever you're writing? Is it satisfying all the test cases? Are you thinking about corner cases? Are you can you dry run your code? That is something which I've seen many people struggle at, that they're able to run their code, but when you tell them to dry run, they get stuck. And speed is something which is relevant to company. Like some companies want speed, some companies want that coverage is important. So speed is kind of important if you tell in Google aspect. But I've seen that in Microsoft, its average speed is good enough. But in Google, you have to be very cautious about speed part. And other things are giving multiple solutions proactively. Start with a brute force solution, then improve on it.
Mhm.
Just how can you save time? Like what my practice I follow is I start with the brute force solution. I spend 2 minutes on it, then I move forward. Even if I know the best solution, I'll not start with it. I'll just let them know. So consider an interview is like a checklist that you have to tell them what you know. So if they know that you told them brute force, then you improved over it. So it helps in getting more confidence. So if you know the best solution and if you tell that instead in the first go, you lose brownie points. Consider if you know the brute force as well as medium solution as well as good solution. If you are telling the good solution directly, you're missing your brownie points. And what else? I think runtime is pretty important. I've seen that many people are able to code, but they're not able to judge what they have written. So
Mhm.
I've taken few interviews and rejected people based on they've coded everything but not able to judge what their solution is doing. They're able to dry run but not telling that what is the exact complexity. So those things are important because consider in real life you don't expect you cannot monitor people what they're doing. You have to expect that they are doing best of their knowledge and everything should be fine. So once you enter the company, it should be a independent, self-driven stuff. Nobody can monitor you that greatly. So that is why the interview filtering is so strict in these companies. And I think one thing people should definitely do is mock interviews.
Mhm.
And it's very good right now that since everybody due to COVID is giving virtual interviews, and there are platforms like Pramp and all where you can actually give mock interviews. Like, have you used ever Pramp? So
No.
it's like you schedule. coding interview with a random person.
Hmm.
So they'll take your interview
Okay.
and you take their interview. So eventually, you both get practice on giving virtual interviews. How do you solve random questions? So they give you feedback. So the important part is like what feedback you give you got and how do you work over that. So that part is pretty important, I feel.
Regarding the core companies and the biotech, regarding the students from the core companies to the software jobs, I would say, I can say the way it has happened in our times, like I'm not sure how things would have changed by now, but I feel that at that time it would be relatively difficult for students from mechanical, civil, or like chemical branches to go to a high tech companies like uh, Google, Microsoft, or Amazon. But having said that, to get into that, they need to start, if not at that level, but maybe the normal IT companies that we have in India, like the IT consulting companies like TCS, Infi, Cognizant, Accenture, because a lot of these companies, they don't really they don't care what your background is, because they would be training in on their own softwares, or on their like on modules. So in that case, I would say for the people who have studied a lot in their core branches, it might be difficult to get started with the high with the like top tech companies. But if you really want to work in the top tech companies, you might want to start with the relatively smaller companies, like a baby step, and then move your way up to the different companies that you would really like to work in.